It's Wednesday. It's noon. That means it is time for the crossover with Don Taylor and Rick Dhaliwal from Donnie and Dhali on Check TV. You can see them Monday to Friday, 10 to noon on Check. The crossover is brought to you by Basant Motors, powering the playoff drive, home of over 400 pre-owned vehicles, and where the players go. Rick, Donnie, how's it going, fellas?
Oh, good. Very, very busy, just like yourselves.
Yes.
Thomas, traveling all over the place. Love it.
So it goes. And very engaged and energetic listeners and texters to interact with today as well.
Oh,
and
my
look,
gosh.
so much to get into from last night's game, from what we're hearing from Rick Tocchet just minutes ago when he was talking to the media at Rogers Arena. But I want to start with the comment that's really been kind of front of mind for me, which is Tocchet saying some guys, I don't know if they thought it was the playoffs. And people are reacting to it, but I almost think we're like underselling how negative a commentary that is. To say that about, like, think about how important the Stanley Cup playoffs are to being a hockey player. And for Rick Tocchet to say, like, I don't think these guys even know or aware it's the playoffs, that is a big, big card to play for your team. And, he's gotten responses in the past. He better get a big response after that, because that cuts right to the core, I think, of this team.
Yeah, it was great for us. That's for sure. It's great for people who do talk shows, and which is the most important thing, as we all know. But the thing is, he said that after a game in which they came back from a 2-goal deficit in the third period. And I think maybe when you look over the course of the 60 minutes and what happened in the last minute, I guess he's got a point. Did they play perfect hockey? No way. But the standards are high with Rick Tocchet, and if you're a fan, you've got to love it. And if you're a media member, you have to love how honest he is as well.
Well, guys, and he's not caring about hurting feelings last night. These are the playoffs. It's round 2. I'm sorry. You can't go deep with a half a dozen guys that are passengers. Tocchet never took a shift off when he played the game of hockey at any level. Go talk to the people even in junior that played with him. He was a heart and soul guy. That's what he would expect from his hockey club, is to play the way he played. And boy, you can't have that many passengers and go deep. But the flip side of it is they have had this many passengers and they're still tied 2-2. It's a best of 3. They got home ice. Every game's been a 1-goal game. So the flip side is that they're still in this, and it's a best of 3 with that many passengers. Imagine if they didn't have that many passengers.
But you don't think this has actually been close in terms of what we're seeing from these two teams, do you, Rick?
Oh, no, a good chunk of the play's been in the Vancouver zone. I think we all know that, though, Thomas. But then you got to look at the fact, why wouldn't the Canucks take advantage of shoddy Edmonton goaltending? You can't, they're taking advantage.
Well, they did.
They did. Sorry. Last night, they obviously they got better goaltending.
Well, they still did last night.
Yeah.
They still did last night. I mean, Edmonton goaltending is keeping them in this series. But I think we need to be clear-eyed about the extent to which that's the case. Like, here's my suggestion to you, gentlemen. This is the 2003 series all over again. And the Vancouver Canucks, the shoe is on the other foot. The Vancouver Canucks are in the role of the Wild. They're not a hockey team, they're a cult, was what Brian Burke said about Jacques Lemaire's Wild. And that's what the Canucks are. Right down to the third period comebacks, right? Because what does every cult have? An abundance of faith. Confidence that they can pull off even the most improbable. No doubt this team's clutch. No doubt this team's focused, right? They don't make mistakes, and they play damn good defense, and they've still played damn good defense in the series, even as the Oilers have throttled them territorially, especially the top 6. This is it. Like, this is, can the plucky underdog with the team structure and the rigid discipline beat the glitzy, high-octane offensive team that's clearly carrying play but has deeply suspect netminders? It's 0-3 all over again, except the same result's not guaranteed.
Yeah, and you look at we've run these boards the last couple of days about we're not going as deep as the stats. With the stats, there's a lot of people, but shots and shot attempts are not even close in this series. Yeah. But the one thing you didn't mention there, Thomas, nothing against you, but is goaltending. And you guys brought it up a little bit earlier, and Artur Silovs, incredibly, because it's just an amazing story that nobody would have guessed, has just been absolutely fabulous. And, I always say this to the team, to people, all you had was a good goal. Well, that's okay. You're allowed to have a really good goaltender.
Absolutely.
Or in this case, maybe just a really hot goaltender. He can steal a series, and that might very well be the case here. He's been just outstanding. That play last night, the poke check with Evander Kane. We're talking about a rookie goaltender going up against a bull like Evander Kane who can hurt people. Just ask Tyler Myers. That was very, very impressive. He looked like a seasoned veteran there.
I thought it was his best game of the postseason, even including the Game 6 shutout that helped Vancouver punch their ticket to this round. I thought that could have easily been a 5-0 game, or certainly should have been 3-0 if Silovs doesn't come up big on that third period penalty kill. The fact that they were able to tie it late, to me, is really a credit to Silovs, even more so than Canucks shooters, because he held them in it when they probably had no business, even being in a position to tie it late.
Yeah, Thomas, there's something to say about this group as well. Whether they're getting outplayed or not, down 4-1 in Game 1, they come back to win. Last night, 2 goals in the third. They never give up. This club. Now let's go to Nashville. Besser with the goalie pulled twice. They score, and then Lindholm. There is something to say about the fact this team never gives up. Every time you count them out, how many times have we written, and how many times, Thomas, you're a writer. And we did this in the post game. We are thinking the game's over. In our heads, we've got the game report written. Yep. And then the Canucks go do something magical in the last 2 games, and we are left scrambling. We got to change the whole narrative of the game because this club refuses to give up. And I think whether you say they deserve or not deserve to be 2-2, Thomas, they also deserve the credit for never giving up and that compete level. And there's a character group here. Down 4-1, down 2-0 last night, down to Nashville, 2 goals late in the third. They never give up. You can't count them out.
I love to see them elevate their game, right? I think one of the takeaways that we can bring from this, because we've seen high-end cores struggle to get it done in the playoffs. Just look at Toronto, right? So I think we're going to be able to come out of this being like, hey, this team's got the ability, this core group's got the ability to be clutch and to level up and elevate their games in the postseason with, Brock Besser especially being sort of the poster child for that at the moment. And yet, I don't think we should because certainly Rick Tockett's not letting, the fact that they were able to tie it late distract us from just how little they were able to generate against Pickard last night. The Oilers finally came to the series with a complete game, and the Canucks had nothing at 5-on-5 until the last 10 minutes when they managed to get a double deflection goal and obviously that beauty by Garland. I don't think we should confuse ourselves by the fact that the Canucks tied it late into thinking that there was anything close about that game. There simply was not.
Well, and they lost in the end of it,
but
right?
In regulation.
But are you not going to give them credit for tying the game?
I did. Didn't I just give them at length credit for being clutch and elevating their game in the postseason?
You're making it sound like
they weren't close. It was a bad performance, and their coach blasted them for it, Rick. We don't have to put icing. We don't have to put icing on the carrot cake. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it would be.
No, but I told you the majority of the play has been in the Vancouver end. There's no question, Thomas. But it's 2-2, and that's the bottom line. They got just as good as chance of Edmonton in this best of 3, which they got home ice. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Based on what? Based on what? Just as good a chance. Based on what? Well, check it. Go look at what Vegas prices them.
It's 2-2.
Well, but that doesn't mean they have just as good a chance as a team that's outshot them by 30 at 5-on-5 across 4 games. Vegas doesn't think they have as good a chance. The odds don't. I think they can win the series. I want to be very clear about that. But they absolutely cannot play like that and win this series. That's it.
There's a really weird visual here when you reach your right hand over and it goes right in front of the. That's really makes your arm look like it's a million miles long. Anyway, you use the phrase.
Stretch Armstrong.
You use the phrase. Yeah, there you go. Very good. Good pull. You use the phrase high-end core, and that's the frustration with a lot of people right now in Vancouver. Vancouver does have a high-end core. The problem is one member of that high-end core isn't playing high-end hockey right now, and maybe things are a lot more even if Elias Pettersson starts producing a little bit more and quits getting criticized by his coach. That was something else.
Yeah, and I think, as I said earlier in the show, it felt like a bit of a breaking point for Rick Tocchet on Elias Pettersson, right? Because it's pretty incredible they are where they are, having won the first round against Nashville, being tied in against Edmonton, and they've got so little from Elias Pettersson in these playoffs. And I feel like the reason Rick Tocchet was so extra frustrated last night is I think he recognizes like the runway has run out for Elias Pettersson to get going, right? It's not just a frustrating thing now, it's an existential thing. If he doesn't get going, that's going to end their season. Their season is on the line now, and it feels like, the smoke and mirrors or the escape acts that have allowed them to get here without Pettersson, that's not going to cut it anymore. They need to get a much higher level of play from Pettersson, or the series is going to be over.
I'm sure going through his mind right now is look where we are, and yeah, they are getting outplayed and outshot and out attempted. They don't have Demko. They haven't got their Vezina Trophy candidate or finalist. And Pettersson is a no-show so far. That's got to be frustrating for him. And I'm not knocking Silovs for a second, but if number 40 can somehow elevate his game, we haven't seen it for a long time, just imagine where they could be. Just imagine where they can be. And that's got to be part of the frustration, too.
Guys, Bruce Boudreau was on our show this morning. He had some interesting comments about Pettersson. He said his body language looks like he's lost a lot of confidence. And he says, and Bruce would know, he had him in the dressing room, he coached him. He said it's weighing hard on him. He'd like to see him smile. He doesn't see the smile from Pettersson. And he also said this in defense of Pettersson. He's got a guy on his wing, Mikheyev, who's got one goal in his past 60 games. But look, is he injured? I don't know. I would really like some clarity on that, because if he is injured, it would explain a lot. If he's not, boy, is there.
But if he is injured, why haven't they arrested him? Because this goes way back.
That's a great point. But if he isn't injured, then there is massive concern because, as Donnie likes to refer, you just gave this guy $11.6 million. Where's the intensity, his will and desire, his battle and compete? Where is that, right? But then also, they've saddled him with 4 guys in the postseason who have a combined 1 assist.
Okay, but that doesn't explain what's happening on the power play, right?
Yeah,
where he's playing with some pretty good players.
That's a good point.
I know you guys got to get out of here in a minute, but I did want to just ask for a Thatcher Demko update, Rick, because I know Tocchet's saying, hey, he's improved a lot in the last 72 hours. What's the latest you're hearing?
I heard this morning big strides being made by Demko. Let's see where he is in 2 or 3 days. I've been saying this since round 1. Game 6 or 7 is a possibility. I'm hearing more Game 7 than Game 6. But the great news about Demko, whether he gets back or not, we don't know. But there is big strides in terms of progress. That is good news.
The moment I saw him drop into a butterfly, move laterally along the ground, including at least some post-integration work, albeit not at pace and not in a dynamic practice environment, being tested by his teammates, NHL-level shooters. The moment I saw that, I thought, oh, boy, this is definitely going to be a story to track this week. I've been a little bit skeptical given the 2 non-contact injuries in his knee in a truncated period of time, Rick, as you know from our private conversations. But seeing that yesterday, man, he's looking at the very least on the verge of being able to try it out in a dynamic practice environment, which might give him a shot for next week or early next week.
A shot. We're not saying, but I was told big strides and possibility. Possibility is there for Game 6 or 7, but don't say it's a guarantee, but it's moving in the right direction.
Okay, appreciate the update, Rick. Guys, a pleasure as always. We'll cut it here. I know you got to run,
Thanks,
and we'll chat next week.